Raw Christian Men's Podcast, tackling the important issues from a biblical perspective.
Welcome back to the Raw Christian Men's Podcast, a place for authentic, real-life discussion on faith, masculinity, and living as a Christian man in today's world. Today we're revisiting a topic of an older episode, but we're putting a little different spin on it. We'll be discussing godly marriage, but we got some special guests with us today. So let's introduce our wives. So we have Kyle Miller with his wife, Nikki Miller. We've got Jim Parsons and Jeannie Scott, and then I am Brad Martin. With me, Caleb Martin. So how are you guys doing today?
Great.
We're doing great.
Good.
Everybody right?
Everybody's super tense.
Super ready for this episode. I know all the wives are looking forward to this episode.
We're hoping we don't need counseling after this.
So yeah, we know this is the Raw Christian Men's Podcast, but we wanted to get the spouses, not just opinion, but like their views and expectations and everything, because we are talking about godly marriage. So it is, the man and the woman coming together. So we need to get both perspectives, right? So it's going to be a little bit different. Instead of just following like the traditional outline we usually follow, we're just going to have a bunch of subtopics we're going to hit and then just let the conversation go wherever it may, right? So biblical foundation for marriage. All right. God's design of marriage goes all the way back to Genesis 2:24. It says, "Therefore, a man shall leave his father and his mother and hold fast to his wife, and they shall become one flesh." What do you guys think that in modern times or in today's day and age, like becoming one flesh means? Because I think you could hear it and then think more of a physical, like sensual, but I don't think it necessarily means that. What do you guys think?
Becoming one unit.
Okay.
I agree with Jim.
As if there's not two people, there's just one person.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I guess what does that look like? Because we can all say that, but like what does that look like as becoming one like cohesive?
Well, if you have kids, that means you both take on the kids together and make sure they don't divide and conquer you.
Yeah.
I absolutely agree with that. Definitely got to be one unit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
As I was looking up some scripture, it related one flesh as the same thought that God is three persons and one God. The one flesh can be the same thing in a marriage. It should be that close.
Okay.
I agree with that 100%. Very good.
I guess I never thought of it that way.
Yeah.
But that's not.
That's super tough.
Because you have your own
in a
individual.
perfect world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you have two individuals coming together to form. Because it's tough to wrap your head around when you think about it. Because in my mind I can grasp it, but then trying to put it into words, I can see where it's really difficult. But then having God at the center of your marriage, I think that is paramount. So how do you keep Christ at the center of your life, or in the center of your marriage as life starts to get busy? What steps can you take?
I think that starts before you get married. Mm-hmm. So it's reading your Bible and looking for a spouse who believes. I mean, I was pretty young, but I was looking for someone who believed in God and had the same morals that I did. So that was something I was looking for. Nikki was raised Christian and the same beliefs that I had. So there was I was definitely looking for that. So the unequally yoked, I was told growing up that you're not supposed to be unequally yoked. So that was kind of where I was looking. Now I was young, so the understanding of marriage was a little different in my head back then than it is today. But that's what I was looking for, was someone who was going to be a godly woman so that she could raise godly children with me.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Did you guys think that way when you? Did you think about? I mean, truly, how
I
old
think
were you?
it was definitely a process we had to work toward as far as like keeping God in the center of it. Because we were young. We started dating in high school. I think I was a junior, you
I
were
was
a sophomore.
15. Yeah.
So by the time we got married in our early 20s, we were, been together for a while, and we just kind of like, oh, that's the next step. And then you got two very different people trying to come together, and you're trying to figure out those differences and try to figure out how to, live with each other and work through the little quirks and stuff that you discover about each other. I think at the beginning it was hard to keep the focus on God, to remind us like why we're doing it. And it was later on. I wish we would have done it earlier. We'll say that.
I do think that we were both raised, in Christian
Yeah.
households. So, like you said, Kyle, like you were looking for that. We found that in each other, I feel like.
I would say we
Just-
were definitely not unequally yoked. It was
Yeah.
just I think we were still coming at it from like a worldly perspective instead of focusing on God and relying on Him to get us through everything that when you're young and you're getting married, you don't expect all the stuff that you're going to go through early on in marriage.
Especially
And-
with you being in the military, we were kind of like, well, at this point, like you're gone all the time. Like if I want to be with you, then
Mm-hmm.
we're gonna have to get married so we can be together instead of living far away from each other.
Well, we figured it out. I want to say like as our first 3 years that we were married, we spent more time
Yeah.
separated because of like where I was at than we were together out of the first 3 years. So, that was definitely hard. But I wish we would have maintained the focus on God early on a lot sooner than what we actually did.
Yeah.
Yeah, so some other practical tips are, you go to church together, you do Bible study together, you pray together, you do these things. And, there's a lot of women that come to church with no man. And for whatever reason, men think they don't need that. I don't need that. I'm fine just by myself. But the Bible tells us not to forget meeting together, as some are in the habit of, and coming together on a weekly basis is a very good reminder. And if you're in the habit of doing that, it's easier to keep God at the center than it is if you're not in the habit of doing that.
And that's where me and Nikki, like, our families were going to church all the time. Her family's got a lot of good examples. We didn't have a lot of divorce in my family, and she had great grandparents that were married 70 years. So there's a whole example there that was set. Even though we were very young, we had an idea of what we were supposed to be like.
That's one thing that I really, really liked about Brad. I do remember this because his parents were married still. Both sets of his grandparents were married. And I knew that was like, important to them that they didn't have that. And my parents were obviously still married too. So,
But like as far as both of our grandparents on both sides, my mother and father's side, I've lost one grandparent from each side, but they remained married until they lost their spouse. And I think they both reached over 60 years or right at 60 years by the time that, they lost their spouse. So I think it was definitely ingrained in us early on, the importance of like just making sure we didn't seek that as an option. And we talked about this early on, like no matter how mad we might get at each other or what kind of fights pop up or whatever, like divorce was never an option. Like, you can go to bed, we can sleep in separate, whatever, spend some time apart, whatever we need to do. But in the end,
we got to figure it out.
We're still going to be together. And
We had that exact same talk that same theory
Yeah.
because, we had a lot of fights, but it was like, you're going to be there tomorrow. I'm just going to have to figure it out, And we didn't do a great job of going to church when we were first married. Same kind of thing. It was like we were raised in that, but you have to intentionally make that a part of your marriage, or it can get real easy, especially when you're young and you're working and it's fun now and we can go do all these things and you're just like, I don't go to church, So we could have done better with that.
And I think, and unfortunately for us, the way I feel was like, because you'd been at Walton for, when did you guys start coming here? 7th grade? So like middle school. And I started coming here when we started dating in high school. So it's something that we were very familiar with. And then when we finally move away and you're testing out other churches, like you're not looking at it from the lens of like, I'm trying to find a good like Bible believing church that I can get, what I need out of it. You're comparing, or at least we were comparing it to Walton Christian Church.
And that was hard.
And it was hard because like no other church is going to compare to what we were comfortable with, what we knew. So
As parents, we do that to you to hope that you'll always come home.
Yeah.
well,
Well, we're home.
I think Kayla's mom and dad did a little bit too well because I don't think she's ever leaving. So
That's a good feeling, though, when your kids are coming to the same church. I mean, Tristan and Kaylee coming here
Yeah.
makes me feel good. I know that they're going to have a moment where they're going to be moving away, maybe, or finding another church for a little while she's going through school. But you always hope they come back and you can at least visit them at their church if they're picking somewhere else. But yeah. So we skipped over the main part. Why did you want to be married? I mean, because Paul says that men, or people shouldn't get married if they don't have that desire. So I think
why you put me on the spot?
I'm going to put you on the spot because this is why I'm going to put everybody on the spot, because right now there's a big problem in definitely America where young men don't think they need to be married. Like they all have Paul's gift, I guess, of not having a desire. So
I think now I'm going to interrupt you.
Okay.
I think because of the time that we're living in,
okay,
and the stuff that they have to go through as far as like dating, and then some of the way some women are now. I don't want to say all women.
Sure.
There are a group of women that make it very hard to date or try to find a spouse, and they look at that and they think it's not even worth it because even if I do get to the point where I get married, I don't see myself with them forever, so I'm going to lose half my stuff, lose half my money.
Yeah.
Is it even worth going through all that when I can just still be alone and be happy and have all my stuff? And they're thinking of it from a worldly standpoint.
So if I got to say something on that, I would say it's absolutely worth looking into marriage, because losing my stuff here or losing my soul on the other side is a real problem. So that's why godly marriage is something somebody needs to seek out if they have the desire. If they can't squash that desire, and I'm talking about sex if somebody doesn't understand what I'm saying, but if they have that desire and they can't squash that desire, they need to be looking for a godly man or a godly wife. Agreed on that? Or does everybody agree on
That
that?
was the number one reason I wanted to get married.
Every man I've ever talked to, that's the number one reason. Matter of fact, Paul says if you don't have that desire,
I got married because I love my wife.
Well, and then Jim and I's marriage is totally different because I truly, I've already did this once
Yeah.
and had a wonderful marriage for 27 years. I didn't need to get married again.
Right.
I had 2 children that were grown. I had a home. I had a job. I didn't need to get married again. So he talks about how it took him forever to talk me into getting married. That's the
Yeah.
truth, because
was
I
true.
really didn't need to.
Yeah. So, and
But then that's totally different than when you're a kid. I can go back to, I was 18 when I got married the first time.
yeah.
And I married a local kid, and he was in the Navy, and we had no clue what we were doing. And there wasn't any thought to this being a God-centered marriage. I just can see, looking back on it, that God had a plan for our marriage. But at the time, I was 18. What did I know?
But you're still going to be like 18 to 25. Somewhere in there, people make choices to not get married or to get married. I guess that's my anybody who's listening. If you're a young man who's struggling, you can't just say that's not an issue. I don't need a wife, because every man here just admitted, except Brad, but we know that's probably the driving factor when you're young. is, okay, God says we're not supposed to be in a lustful state. So that is a driving factor in men wanting to get married. I would say anymore we have the same issues with women. I think it was always that way, but because it takes two people. So
Yeah.
I know me and Nikki were in that place where we needed to be married when we were young. So I just wanted to address that because, that's what typically forces the idea of thinking about
We
getting married.
also
Well,
need
Nick-
to remember how serious we need to take this and how serious God takes marriage. Because, I mean,
Absolutely.
Jesus, you can look in Matthew when Jesus is, I believe it's in Matthew, correct me if I'm wrong, when he's explaining to the apostles the importance of marriage. I believe, was it the apostles or was the Pharisees was asking them about, based on the laws of Moses, what can constitute a divorce? He said, well, it is written in the laws of Moses for a man that he can't divorce, but I'd say even then, outside of sexual immorality, you should not divorce, and even then, you should try to reconcile. So, like, it got to the point where the men that were listening said it'd be easier for us to not even get married, and just to basically stay single because of how important it is to stay married once you become married. And they said, well, if that's how you, basically, I'm summarizing, God or Jesus didn't say it in these words, but well, if that's how you feel, then yeah, but it's that important. So you can't just approach marriage with, which unfortunately it happens all too often, but you can't just approach marriage with this mentality of well, I really want to have sex. So,
Or if it doesn't work out, I can just get a divorce and find somebody
Right.
else.
yeah.
Yeah, godly marriage would be both of you are believers in Christ and looking at it from trying to please God from that standpoint.
Well,
And
no-
all of us have children, so we can all realize how important
Yeah.
having that godly marriage is, and having the two of you being one when you have to address all the things you have to address
Yeah.
as you're raising your kids. And with Jim and I, as we're raising two different sets of kids.
So just as a reminder to anybody out there, me and Nikki have been married like 27 years. We got married when we were 19. We didn't really tell how long we've been married, but
Oh yeah, we should have done.
we should have done that. So
So you and Nikki have, you said how long?
27 years.
27 years.
Yeah.
26.
26, and we just hit 17
Yep.
So we've been doing the marriage
last
thing
week?
for a little bit,
Yeah.
last week.
all of us.
Well, another good advantage of marriage is stability, and economically, it is more advantageous to be married than not, and whether one spouse works or not, just because you have two people taking care of a household. And two people who are able to do that. So, if a young guy's looking at it going, I don't want her taking half my money, half my stuff. Well, you'll have a lot more money and a lot more stuff if you get married.
Yeah.
It just works that way.
And I think that's, again, they're thinking of it from like the worldly lens rather than
Right.
like trying to approach it like I'm looking for a godly marriage. They're just thinking, and I think this is a good segue to the next little topic, and I know Jeannie's really looking forward to this one. Marriage being a covenant compared to a contract. And I think they are looking at it as like a contract between the two parties, which you can get out of if you're unhappy or if you feel
have a
like
good
your
lawyer.
needs aren't being met. What's that?
If you have a good lawyer.
If you have a good lawyer.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, if you look at, and I think we've talked about it on like the divorce rates and stuff like that before, but I just recently I was looking at the divorce rates, and like the main reasons would be like your emotional needs aren't being met or irreconcilable differences. It's not like before, like even like a couple decades ago, it was more of like infidelity or even like abuse. Those would be like the top reasons. Now it's more of we don't get along, or we have too many differences, or my emotional needs aren't getting met by the other party, so I'm just gonna leave. And the priorities are switching, I guess, in my mind. So do you guys see the same thing?
Yeah, but I think that a lot of that has to do with we don't have, a healthy fear of God and the vows and stuff that we take before Him. So one, if you don't believe, you're not going to be in a godly marriage to begin with. But if you do believe and you're not taking it serious and you're like, well, Jesus died for our sins and all is forgiven, and that's how you live your life, you're almost mocking God by living that way. So you really got to take it serious. Your vows, when you make any vow before God, they're real serious. And marriage is one of those where you take a vow that is very, very serious, that you need to, you're the first thought in your head when things aren't going right should be not that I'm going to disappoint Nikki or she's going to disappoint me. It's that I'm going to disappoint God if I don't work through this. And if that's your mindset, then if you get in a fight, it's not, throw up my hands and we're done. It's, okay, God's saying, I'm not supposed to be this way.
I think that goes right along with keeping God in the center of everything.
You have to.
Yeah, sometimes your vow to God's the only thing you got left.
Yeah.
That's right.
You're hanging on by a thread going, okay, God, here I am. I know I said I'd stay here, so what do I do next?
Yeah, absolutely.
And
I mean, go ahead.
No, go ahead. No.
I mean, me and Nikki, we could have been divorced many, many times over 27 years, and you get married we started dating when we were 17? Married at 19. I had this idea that marriage was going to fix all the problems. And it probably just made it worse, to be honest, as far as, you think that's going to overcome all these lustful things you're going to have, and it's going to fix everything, and everything's going to be great. And then when you're like, whoa, it almost made it worse. And now I'm dealing with this. I don't know if I should have been married or not. And then you're fighting with that. But at the same time, I'm like, I just vowed before God. And it's like, I can't break this. I got to work through this. And so there's a struggle there for a lot of years. And then it was like, okay, me and Nikki are very much alike as far as stubbornness. So I think God put us in the same thing and said, well, you work it out or you kill each other. So that's how it's going to work out. And so I had a lot of heart change over the years. And if you stay seeking God and his, trying to work to please him in your marriage, then you can get through a lot of rough stuff, is all I'm trying to say.
Yeah. I think too often nowadays, like, again, I know I just said it, but as a society, we approach marriage as a contract between the husband and the wife rather than focusing on it's the two people together making that vow with God and saying, we know that you created us to be together. I mean, you can see that when all the way back in Genesis, when God created Adam, he said, it's not good for man to be alone. So he created Eve.
Yeah.
They became one. So when you do come together with your spouse, you're making that agreement with God. It's not between you two. You're making that, I'm going to say covenant. I know Jeannie doesn't want me to say covenant, but you're making that covenant with God, saying, we understand that you made us to be one and to help each other out and to live life with each other. And we vowed to do that with our focus on you. And I think as long as you, we were just like you guys. Like when we got married, we were not prepared for it. We thought we were, but I don't think we were nearly prepared enough for. I don't think can you truly be prepared enough for, like, diving into.
Hey, even doing it a second time, you can't truly be prepared because it's a new person.
Yeah.
And opposites attract. Let's just face it. And then right after you get married, your spouse says, "I know you're this political persuasion, but I'm the exact opposite." And you're like, "Do what?"
Yeah. And I think that
Then she said she was just kidding.
I think that
It
if you approach marriage with that covenant in mind, it doesn't matter what tribulations or what bumps in the road you come across. As long as you got, going back to, again, God being the center of it, you're focusing on God and the reasons why you're doing it, then you're not going to have this 50 or 60% divorce rate that we see in society now.
Well, one thing that was good for Jeannie and I, she had a wonderful, great marriage, and her husband passed away. I had an awful marriage and got dumped on the side of the road. So I knew what I didn't want to have. She already had something great. So it's a challenge then to come together and try, and there's no way I can replicate what she had before. It's not me. It was with someone else. But to try to live up to a godly marriage, because she finally said yes.
After how many times again?
24 times.
Oh, that's exaggerated.
That's not exaggerating.
We've talked about this a few times.
I know. Ian exaggerates every time. But I wasn't looking for it to be the same
Yeah.
because that is just really stupid because, and I'm not supposed to say stupid. My granddaughter
word.
tells me that all the time. Ludicrous, maybe, because you can't duplicate something. You know, so that would have been, you know, so I didn't go into it with even that idea because the only thing that was the same was the house we were living in.
Now, do you think that happens more often than not? Whereas, like, let's say other couples in your situation where they've lost a spouse and then they go to get married again, are they comparing the new spouse to the old one too much? Or
I don't know. I've never really
I don't know if you've
talked
come
to
across-
anyone.
So I've had a lot of people ask me about that, and it never bothered me. She still has pictures of Jeff in the house, and they still talk about Jeff at Christmas and family gatherings. Never bothered me. I never met him. I didn't know him, so I didn't have anything to compare to, so I wasn't worried about it. But I've had people say they're bothered because their spouse keeps pictures of their previous spouse in the house, and I'm like,
Well-
why would that bother you?
yeah,
And when you have children, you can't just ignore.
Erase them completely.
Yeah.
You can't erase that many years. And especially when you see your child acting just like their father.
yeah,
You know, you've got to, because that's going to reinforce to them that what they lost was very special. So you can't just wipe them out.
And
Of
you
the
wouldn't
conversation.
want to do that anyway.
No.
That would,
I mean, and that it's no different than with his, you know, with Kaylee because, I mean, it was there, and she has grandparents, and we're together
Yeah.
with her mom all the time, and that would be silly because it just causes your child to have more problems. And then when grandchildren are involved, then it's only hurting Jim and I, and the grandchildren. So I just never had that problem.
okay. Well, unless you guys have anything else to add, we'll shift gears to the next topic. We touched a little bit about it, but like, let's go into marriage prep. Like, what should we do to get ready for a godly marriage, right? So I got a couple things that I put, like preparing your heart, discussing core issues, and then premarital counseling and premarital mentorship. So start with preparing your heart. What personal habits or disciplines did you develop before marriage that helped you once you got married?
Reading my Bible.
Yes, I think you touched on it right at the beginning. Is make sure you're
Yeah.
going to church and reading your Bible.
yeah.
Well, and I'll say growing up, like I knew for a long time that all I really cared about doing in life was getting married and having kids. So I feel like I started at a young age, like praying for my spouse that I would find the right person. And I do that now for the boys. Like, you know, I pray for them to find the spouse that is going to, you know, help them be a better person. And, I mean, I don't know. I did that for a long time. So even not knowing before knowing you.
Then once you find, we'll say the prospective spouse, since you're not married yet, you got to discuss the big issues, right? So you got your finances, you got obviously faith, children. Are you wanting children, not wanting children? How many? Not 4. What expectations each one's bringing to the table. So what conversations do you think you wish you would have had, or you're happy you actually did have before you guys got married?
Did we have those conversations? That was a long time ago.
What I remember about us at the beginning was not talking about kids. we were more, you know, young. You know,
Yeah.
so we knew we wanted to be married. You know, we were too young. We were still in high school. You know, so it was going to be rough to just get, you know, it's like I said, if your son comes home in high school and he says, "Hey, we're ready to get married," and you're like, hold on a second. You know, maybe you should work through this a little bit. So prep was pretty much just, you know, kind of going to church and that kind of stuff and seeing our family. That was about all the
Yeah.
prep we
I mean, we knew some things. Like we knew that I wanted to stay home when we had the kids, and you were on board with that, which would have been a big thing had you not been,
Yeah.
and you had wanted me to work. But
But that was kind of our whole family.
that was how
My
my
mom stayed home. Your guys' family, all your generations, your mom stayed home with the children. I mean, it was kind of
I'm sure part of that was just we were just too young to think about a lot of those things
both
that were
wanted
going to
children.
come.
We knew that.
Yeah, we did.
You know, so that was something that we talked about real quick, I'm sure.
But we didn't ever talk about finances, I don't remember.
Do you guys have anything, or because I was going to jump in real quick if you don't?
Well, we went to some premarital counseling just
Yeah.
because, but you know, we were both older, so finances wasn't as big of an issue, and actually for Jeannie it was, because I grew up borrowing money as much as you can, as often as you can, and she grew up never borrowing money, so that was a little bit of a tension thing in the beginning of our marriage, and that caused some trauma a little bit.
Especially when you're the submission part that we're going to talk about later, because we'll talk about that later. But that is different if there's two totally different backgrounds coming into this union. But if you raised your kids in a godly home, then you probably are more able to sit your child, whichever side, the girl or the boy, and kind of mention to them, because you see it coming. And you know there might be some conflicts there. So at least if you bring it up to your kids, make sure you guys talk about this,
Yeah.
because this could be a problem later on.
yeah.
I would say we talked about kids in the sense that like we both knew that we wanted them whenever it happened. And I think that was the approach that we kind of had. Like we weren't necessarily going to try, but if it happened, it happened. And that was like early on. I knew that she wanted an even number. That's all she'd say. Like so, it was like if
It's either 2 or 4.
So 2. It was like if we have a third one, we're having a fourth one. So
We're not having the
we
third one.
stopped it. We stopped at 2. And I would say we both came into it knowing that we were both believers, so we didn't really have a faith conversation in that regard. And I think that's important to have if you don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, you shouldn't be thinking about marriage if you don't know a lot about your future spouse anyway.
Yeah.
But faith definitely needs to be the conversation that needs to be had. Finances. I would say that was a conversation I wish we would have had more in depth, because I think you came from the background, like kind of like Jeannie, like just make sure you're saving up everything. I was, because like were you just finished college when we got married?
Yeah.
So she just finished college. I was already in the military, so on my own, had some freedom of, had my own money. And so I had that mindset of like, oh, when I got money and if there was something that I wanted, I went and I got it. And then I brought that over into our
He
marriage.
still does it sometimes too.
Yeah, I do. But I brought that over to the marriage when we first got married, and she had that mentality like save everything. And so
I don't like big purchases.
she
I don't
hates-
like spending money.
she gets like physically sick anytime that we have to go to like a car dealership, or if we think about making any kind of a purchase like that. I couldn't imagine what was going through her head when we were, sitting down to sign the mortgage papers for our house. And so
So since you were because see, we were the exact opposite. Like my mom never looked at the price of anything, so I did not grow up thinking that way. But his parents were a little too loose with their money, so he was super tight. But he was the head of the house, so I kind of just had to follow that. So how did you? Sorry, I'm putting you on the spot.
No, you're fine.
How did you navigate that since you were the head of the house, but she did not want you to
a
spend
lot
like?
of headbutting. And,
Yeah.
and
That is
on.
harder about
It is
it.
I
very
think
much.
Yeah.
still
Have
to
to
this
say
day.
no.
Yeah.
I still think to this day, like, because when you bought your boat, I was like, well, do we really need a boat? Like,
Yes,
you know,
we need a boat.
that's just
fishing.
one more bill that we need. Like,
But-
and even now, I will say, like, even now, like, how long have we been like, Kayla, you got to get a car. Like, you need a vehicle. But I'm just like, no, like,
But
I don't
she
want to
has
spend
a
the
car.
money.
She has a car.
Yes, I'm sorry. I do have a car.
No, I don't want. I would just try to clarify. We're at that point where we have one son that's getting ready to drive. Like he's got his permit. He gets his license next year. We got another son that's right behind him. So her car right now is actually going to be Logan's when he starts driving. So we're like, you're at that point. Like she complains about it all the time. Like she's like, I need
too
something else. I
little.
need something else. All right, well let's start looking. And then she drags her feet on looking because she doesn't want to make that purchase. But like I would say,
See, there's a balance there. You need each other. I mean,
Yeah.
there are people who don't spend money who need someone who spend money, and there has to be some enjoyment to some things in life, you know. And having a boat, hopefully, has been a joyful thing for you.
yeah, we've had some.
We like
we've
it.
had fun times like taking the boys fishing.
Yeah,
you know,
and you
some
wouldn't
good
have
memories.
those without
No.
the boat. So,
No.
see, you need each
Yeah.
other.
But I would, and I,
Maybe we just don't need the boat. Could we go with that?
it's a need.
Yeah,
It's a
there
necessity.
is
It's a
nothing-
need. I can't.
We needed the pool too.
But I would
You
say,
needed the pool as much as you needed the boat.
but the thing is, like for
Okay.
these purchases, it's not like they happen all willy nilly. We definitely
Yeah.
had these conversations,
Yeah.
and we said, okay, we knew what we were bringing in. We knew what was going out. We knew that we could afford it. It's just the fact that it's a big purchase in her mind. Like, even though we've already had this conversation, when it comes time to actually pull the trigger on it, she drags her feet, or she doesn't want to do it, or she starts like, oh, every time we go to sit down for a big, oh, my stomach's hurting.
Well, usually Brad goes by himself to sign it, and I'll just like walk out to the parking lot.
Yeah, but that's the difference between, because you are one person here, even though you got two different ideas. You always come back together and meet each other. So that's the important part. That's the important part. That's why the finances are important to talk about, so you know where each other
Yeah.
is coming from. But then you both give and go to the middle.
I think the problem early on was because when we first got married, you know, I was in the military. She moved out with me. We were stationed in Hawaii, so she didn't work while we were out there. So we were now a family unit, and I'm used to income just when I got it, and if I found something I wanted, I bought it. You know? And so I needed to make that mindset adjustment that it's not just me now; it's both of us. So we
Now there's two of us, and she ain't working.
yeah,
so
it's still one income trying to support two people rather than one person. So that was definitely a.
But that's hard too. Like
very hard.
it's hard even for you to give up. I want to spend my money. I work for this. Like, you know, that whole.
That was something I had to do is I had to shift out of that mindset of it's my money
Yeah.
rather than now it's like it's supporting us.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people still come into that. They're coming to marriage with that mindset of like, oh, this is my money and then that's her money if you know both parties are working.
I think that's where me and Nikki were a little different on that because we had nothing. So and I will say that is a fantastic way to start. You know, everybody wants to get ahead and have a whole bunch when they get together, but building something together is an amazing thing because we don't look at our money. We might joke to each other, but everything's together. Bank accounts are all together.
Yeah.
Everything's together, and everything that we've done has all been me and her. So we've had to navigate through having nothing to having more than plenty. And however we got there together. So it was, you know, it's a joint venture. So everything, and we just look at each other and go, "This is it's ours." It's never, you know. Maybe we say that if we're a little.
Yeah, Kyle says it a lot since he worked a whole lot more than me.
Hey, you know, this is my house, but it's not. We all, you know, her name's on everything too. So it's like it's always we build it ourselves.
Yeah.
From the ground up.
Hey, we're all just stewards, right?
That's right.
That's right.
Managing it for a little while.
That's right.
That's right.
So now we'll go to premarital counseling or any kind of a premarital mentorship. Did you guys have to do any kind of
We did at our church.
you
Yeah.
did it through the church? Okay. I think we did it because we had Bill marry us, and I think that was a stipulation of before he married us. And I think at the time I was deployed, wasn't I?
Yeah, you did yours-
We
you
didn't
did
even do our
separate.
counseling together. Like we were separate. So I was doing it. She was here. I was in Iraq, and so like I just did all the sessions or did the paperwork, whatever it was, and so I don't think we necessarily got out of it what we could have got out of it because again we were premarital counseling, you're coming together, but you're going to do it separate. So it kind of defeated the purpose of
I
it.
said something to Bill about it, about us needing counseling, and he goes, "There ain't no way I'm going to counsel you two." He said, "No, Jeannie, I'm not doing it. So you go someplace else."
Yeah. And
He probably doesn't remember that, but we both laughed about it at the time.
see, I would say if you're looking to get married and then if you're going through a church or if the pastor you're choosing doesn't want or doesn't require it, I would say at the very least, you need to have some kind of a mentorship. Would you guys agree? Like,
Yeah.
you need to find another couple that you admire, that you look up to, that they have a godly marriage, and you need to just have them pour into you.
Especially if you're young.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially when you're young, you need that counseling, because if you didn't talk about finances or how many children do you want, 2 or 4, or any of that,
Yeah.
you don't think about that you need to talk about that.
Yeah.
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 'Cause, I mean, I think you always kind of look at your parents,
Yeah.
but
I really looked at Nikki's family, and nothing against mine, because my parents and grandparents, they were all married until death do they parted. So, but Nikki's family was so different in the way they prayed, the way I don't know how to say this, but you could feel God's presence in their family all the time. Their get-togethers, their everything, which I really desired at that time, and I still do. But it was different for me. It was like being at church all the time. Like, I don't know how to explain that, but so the mentorship that I looked to was like her grandfather. Like, on her mom's side, nobody's divorced still, are they? Is there a divorce? I mean, we're talking, they had 5 children, tons of grandchildren, and it was like, wow. And just the way their family unit worked and how they put God first and everything was like, it was like an eye-opening experience back in high school. I was like, whoa, this is crazy. They pray for real. And it was not just, it was with a heart, you could feel it. And then they were all, the way they talked about each other and the way they treated each other. It was, when you talk about mentors, their whole family was just it's just hard to explain. If you're around godly people or godly marriages, you're like, wow, I want that. That's how it felt. It was like, I want that. And so that really drew me to Nikki in that time. And I know when you're young, you think, I was still thinking that way, because I had a brother that was pushing me pretty hard about God. So, I was thinking that way. And when I met her family, I was just like, wow. And they were excellent mentors. Her parents, the way they lived their life and the way they treated each other. They did a very good job. Better than I did. So if they were listening to this, they did fantastic.
I think that's really important, even as you are married, like even not before, like to have godly people who will speak truth into your marriage, because marriage is hard, and to have somebody who maybe they don't need to know all the things that are happening in your marriage, but if they're at least there to be like, I can pray for you, or maybe you do need to talk about something, or them just to be like, okay, I get that, but remember where you're at, just to bring you back to where you need to stay.
that's a good point, because I don't think a lot of people think of marriage of like, there's definitely different stages that you go through in your marriage.
Yeah.
Like, they think of, okay, well, I'm married and here I am until we die.
Yeah.
And once you have kids, you have young kids, you're going to look toward the couples that are already gone through that.
Yeah.
Or, you start to have kids that are in high school, or they're starting to go off to college, or
Right.
whatever. They're becoming adults and they're leaving the house. You're going to look to the older couples that have gone through that. You need those people to be pouring into you to kind of, give you the guidance.
Yes.
Kind of help keep you, have the right perspective. Hold you accountable.
Yeah.
Right. Because you're not going to
Absolutely.
And
you're going to get a lot
advice
wrong.
on how to navigate that stuff.
Yes.
Like that's
Those stages are hard.
Yeah. Even now, me and Nikki are looking at our kids moving out, and we've had good examples of how to treat each other once your kids are gone. The way they handle their marriage is is fantastic, and they spend time with each other, and it's like, yeah, their kids are gone, but they're, there's not that, how do I say that? There's not that period of time in there where they really struggled. From what I saw anyway, it was like, okay, that was supposed to happen like that. And then they moved on, and my wife's, or my husband, that's where we go to. And then they kind of lead that way. So even now I'm still looking up to them in the way they've handled their marriage.
Because think about it now, like I think about it, and I think about the issues or whatever we were going through when we were first married and we didn't have kids. And then when we have young kids, and you think about it now, you're like, man, we were really worried about that stuff. And then I would kill to have those issues now compared to what we're going through. You have teenage. Now we're at that stage where we have 2 teenage boys, and anybody who has teenagers, let alone 2 teenage boys, it's a whole new set of challenges. And I know it's going to be even different when we get to that point where our kids are out of the house and we're empty nesters, and we're going to look back like, man, I would kill to have the days where we had the rowdy boys and and their friends and in our house.
Yes,
the smells are real.
So I mean, there's definitely different stages, and you need those people to kind of help keep you, I guess, in perspective, and like I said, hold you accountable, because
it'll almost be like starting over.
Yeah, you're not going to do everything right. Yeah, so you definitely need to be able to have somebody not just coddle you, not just hold your hand, like, okay, you're fine, you're doing great, you're killing it. Like if you're messing up, you need somebody to tell you, hey, you're messing up, or maybe that's not what you need to be worrying about.
It doesn't really happen instantly, kids, so you'll flow into it. It's a flow. You flow into them leaving home, because they don't leave mostly.
Yeah, how many
They
times
don't leave abruptly.
Yeah.
3 or 4.
I moved back home a lot.
Yeah.
When he deployed, I would come home. Yeah. So,
but I mean, it is a flowing
like,
of your life, and then once you get there, you'll think, boy, this is pretty good. We can sit down and watch TV, and
we could think back, like going from no kids to 1 kid to 2, like it. You don't have like those transition line, like where you can really define where you go from one stage to another. Like you said, it just flows all together. And like next thing we know, like here we are with a 15 and a 13-year-old. Where was our our 3-year-old and our 1-year-old that we just had? It seems like a couple weeks ago.
it's your grandchild now. That's what you get now.
That's Kayla hates when I bring this up, because people have talked about, like, you'll hear those comments. Oh, when are you gonna have another one? I think
you think you're gonna have any more?
And I'm like, I'm closer to being a grandparent than I am to having another kid. And she'll get mad at me. I'm like, no, just think about it. Like, I'm not saying anything bad, but like, we got married. You were 21, I was 23. I got a 15-year-old right now. I was like, that's 5-6 years down the road. I mean, we had Logan within a year. You were pregnant like a year after we got married. So, I mean, it's not far off if you think about it.
I'm going to cry.
Not as close as
No.
Kyle and Dick.
Not as close as Kyle and Nikki. But.
Yeah, it's getting real close.
All right. We'll go ahead and shift gears to roles of the husband and the wife. I know a lot of people like to look at this scripture and they stop at a certain point, but we'll read Ephesians chapter 5, 22 through 33. So, wives, submit yourselves to your own husbands as you do to the Lord. For the husband is the head of the wife, as Christ is the head of the church, his body, of which he is the Savior. Now, as the church submits to Christ, so also wives should submit to their husbands in everything. Husbands, love your wives just as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her to make her holy, cleansing her by the washing with the water through the word, and to present her to himself as a radiant church without stain or wrinkle or any other blemish, but holy and blameless. In the same way, husbands ought to love their wives as their own bodies. He who loves his wife loves himself. After all, no one ever hated their own body, but they feed and care for their body, just as Christ does for the church. And for we are members of his body. For this reason, a man will leave his father and mother and will be united with his wife, and the two will become one flesh. This is a profound mystery, but I'm talking about Christ and the church. However, each one of you also must love his wife as he loves himself, and the wife must respect her husband. So that was a lot. And I think a lot of people get hung up on that one word. We had that discussion right before we started recording, but
Yeah.
let's talk about the roles of each spouse. All right. So servant leadership for the husband. We've talked about that, in other episodes, but we are called to love our wives as we love ourselves and to lead not just them, but lead the entire house spiritually. Correct?
That's what the Bible says.
So what does that look like? How do we love? I mean, it seems like it's a simple concept, but like, how do we love our spouse like we love ourselves?
We'll provide and protect. And provide doesn't mean just financially, but providing for your spouse and her life, and making sure protecting your spouse and her life, and serving your spouse. So provide and protect and preserve and serve rather is the way I look at it. But it's I'm in a little different situation because Jeannie's a lot older than I am, so she's had a lot more Bible study time than I have, even though I've had a lot. So it's a little different because I'm trying to. I can't have the life experience she has at my age. So
you got a good helper.
yeah. Oh, I got a great helper. I got a great story on a little helper. I'll tell you it sometime. A little helper in the car.
I have one of those too.
Yeah. So yeah, servant leadership. You're definitely watching over the spiritual part of your household. You're praying for protection from the devil and his schemes. You're praying that God's going to fight the spiritual battles for you, for the ones that you can't see. You're praying for all those things that are attacking your family, but you can't physically see or do anything about. You're having to ask God to fight that battle for you, and that's where you're looking over, making sure that the protection is there, and serving your spouse. That happens in a lot of ways. That's as simple as a honey-do list. Here, honey, do this, honey, do this, honey, do this. I mean, Kyle's got one that's way longer than mine, so.
Keep getting longer and longer. Pour your head.
Because I know to keep mine
Because he
short,
doesn't
'cause
work on it.
Those long ones, they'll never
my.
get done.
Yep.
So I was just doing that for Nikki's sake. I'm just having a little fun, Nikki. That's part of serving your spouse is the honey-do list, all those little things that need to be taken care of. But serving your spouse is also helping her to be her full potential as a godly woman. And you've heard me talk about it many times. I get to Proverbs 31 and I read about the godly woman, and I say it to her often, and she goes, "Oh, it must be the end of the month."
Must be the 31st of the month, because that's where it is. Proverbs 31.
But helping her be her full potential as a godly woman. So that's where you're serving.
You have anything to add to that?
I mean, that hit it pretty well. I mean,
Yeah.
as far as that goes, yeah. Something he said is the spiritual warfare that goes on behind the scenes. Whether you're the husband or the wife, you got to remember there's something God loves about marriage, family, that Satan's going to hate. He's going to try to destroy it in any way he can. So both parties have to be praying for that protection. Both parties have to be lifting each other up. I've had answered prayers that I really believe that the only reason God heard me was because Nikki was praying for me. So it takes that both of you understanding that you are in a battle against Satan and the fallen angels, and he wants to destroy you. I mean, he wants to take whatever God loves and destroy it.
Yep.
So if you're looking at your life with your spouse that way, you're going to look at things differently, and you're going to have a lot more, you're going to be able to face a lot more challenges if you're looking at it that way. You're going to know why your husband or your wife said something. You're going to be like, I didn't look at it this way for a long time. I'm not saying I did. But anymore, if we get in a fight, I think, okay, who's really behind this?
Yeah.
You know, I may have to step away and be like, well, I really failed at that, you know, but who was really behind that, me taking that the wrong way or me getting upset? I mean, there's a spiritual force behind there, and recognizing that's important. So when he said that, I was like, yeah, there's a spiritual war going on behind the scenes.
So I'd like to get the wives' perspective as far as, I guess, what you're looking for or what you're expecting out of the man's role as far as leading spiritually. What are you looking to get out of it? Or what do you need to get out of it? Don't be looking at my notes.
I think this probably isn't the best word. A pleasant household, a calm, even in the ups and downs, even when major things happen, if you can meet it on a level where it's more peaceful. Which the only way you can do that is go to God and ask for help in situations that don't seem at all peaceful. But being in an uproar all the time, I couldn't take that. I couldn't take being in an uproar. I don't think women in general want their households to be, I mean, except for the kids that are there. I understand what that's like. But in general, it should come back to where the two of you can find a calm in it. I mean, that's what I would like. I would like a calm, peaceful coexistence with the ups and downs of life.
Yeah. Instead of like the loud arguing and fighting and yeah.
You know, there's surely some way we can
It's like
get
have a
this-
normal conversation.
Yeah, come together and have a normal conversation because I'm as definite about what I believe as you're definite about what you believe. So somehow
Yeah.
or the other, we can get together on something without, and that might mean I have to give in, and to keep everything going because you can't live in that all the time.
Yeah.
Okay. So what, you had something?
Nope.
Okay.
I mean, I'm really curious what you guys look for in a godly man. That I was looking to hear what each one of your opinions were on what you expect out of your husband. Because I think, especially since, you know, most of the people listening are men, you know, they're going to be young men. It's like, what are you guys looking for? You know, we got Jeannie, who's been married successfully twice now. And, you know, you guys have been married 20 some years or close to it anyway. You know, the young men out there, or even men who are struggling in their marriage, what is it that you guys are looking for a man to provide? And you know, Jeannie did say, peace in the house, but how do they go about that? Like, how does someone go about keeping that peace in your guys' eyes?
I don't know about the peace part, but I always feel safe with Brad. He's my safe space, my person, like problems, issues, whatever. I know I can. That's what I want. I want somebody to be able to talk to. If I have a bad day at work, even if he doesn't understand what I'm talking about, he'll just sit and listen. And I'm the person that goes like 0 to 100. Like I get mad and
Really?
I get mad. I am my
think that was
father's
sarcasm.
daughter. And he's Kayla, you can't.
Recently.
You just gotta let it go. Recently, yes. You just
Because
gotta.
I've had my own issues with that as well.
Yeah.
But
Brad's really turned it around, and I have not. But yeah.
well, one thing, and we've talked about it, I think, on the anger episode. But one thing that somebody mentioned to me, because I would always say, like, well, I have a problem going 0 to 100. You know, I feel like just one thing flips a switch. And they're like, are you really 0 to 100, or are you sitting at like idle at 99, and then that one thing puts you over the limit. And like that really had to put things in perspective for me. It's like, okay, maybe I'm just holding too much in, like letting too much bother me, but then like, okay, well, I'm not going to say anything, or I'm just not going to let it go, but I'm not going to do, I'm just going to let it mellow or whatever. And then one thing, and always ends up being like a minor thing, would set me off. And I had to really learn to like not live at that 99 level.
Because what that does to your spouse is it just makes your whole mind blow up.
Well, and like kind of walk on eggshells too,
Yeah.
kind of like before you
You can
turn
mention,
yourself around.
we've talked about it on here, so you can say whatever. So
Just, yeah, I mean, I would always be like, okay, I'd tell the boys, like, when we get home, like, okay, we don't know what mood dad's going to be in, so let's kind of go in calm, and whatever happens, and you can be nuts and whatever, but I
Yeah.
feel like he's really turned that around. And
Jeannie's still looking for that piece. She has mellowed me out a lot, though.
there's a lot of issues that I had, like, it is a combination of different things, but like stuff that I was going through personally, and then I would like kind of take it out on other people. But then there's a lot of stuff that was stemmed from my time in the military. Like, I get really anxious when people, like, there's a lot of stuff going on near me, or like, especially when the boys are like roughhousing real loud or real crazy, and I'm like, I just get really antsy, and I'm like trying to hold it in, and eventually I get to again, I'm at that 99, and as soon as something small happens, like, they get a little bit too rough, and then I spill over and take it out on them. So there's a lot of stuff that I had to work on probably for about a year or so, but I'm still nowhere near where I need to be, but I feel like I'm better off, and I try to remind her about some of that stuff that I learned. And
I'm also not like an independent person, so Brad does take care of me. I don't like to be alone. I don't want to be alone. I always want him there, and he does take care of me. That's why I moved home when he deployed all the time, because I just don't want to be alone. I don't like it. I need somebody to take care of me. I know that sounds terrible, and I know I could do it if I absolutely had to, but I don't, because I got Brad.
I mean,
so.
you have. I mean, I've been overseas, and you'd have both kids.
Yeah.
Even though you're home, you're still taking care of both kids and trying to work and stuff like that. So
When I had the kids, we didn't come home as much, but yeah. So that's what I wanted. I just wanted somebody to take care of me.
I think every woman wants everything that Jim said, like about their husband. I mean, really. But if you're a godly woman that understands the Bible tells you that you have to be in submission to your husband, I know you're going to get to that, but that's a hard place to live as a woman, especially if you're a strong woman. So, like, you still need to be heard. You need to be respected, that you are still a child of God, that you still have your own feelings. Like Jeannie said, like you feel strong about whatever the issue is as your husband feels about it. And you may have to submit to him in the end, but at least hear me, respect that I have those thoughts, or maybe they're off base, then you can talk to me about that. But
and maybe they're not off.
maybe they're not. Yeah.
Because
And
maybe we're thinking of a future, or we're thinking about the kids, or we're thinking about, something else that might happen because of the decision they want to make.
that's a good point, because each one brings something different to the table. I know, I'm not saying this in a negative context, but like women will tend to think more emotionally, and men are more like analytical, and they're like, well, it needs to be X, Y, Z, and we need to get from point A to point B, and women are like, well, we kind of need to take into consideration, maybe C, D, and E, and that's not something that we really think about. We're like, we just want to start point to end point, and this is where we got to do, and then so they definitely complement each other.
I think I've seen it in the financial part of it. When you have to make that decision, you have to listen to each other because it's really something like Jim said, we were totally opposite.
And I listened. I listened all those times you said that's not a good idea.
Yeah. Well, and it has a lot to do with your basic core upbringing. It does. It makes a difference how you were. But those kinds of things in a marriage before you ever have that statement, that talk, it's going to be there. So, and I think a lot of times we don't take it to God before we take it to each other.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
That's a very good point.
I like that point a lot.
Due to the length of this episode, we decided to break it up into 2 separate parts. Thanks for listening, and join us next week as we continue our discussion.